Bonjour tout le monde. Comme propriétaire de notre équipe, mes premiers 30 jours ont été fantastiques. Et je dois avouer, les derniers 10 jours, pas aussi bien. Notre équipe a perdu 3 matchs de suite. J'ai reçu 2 appels de la Ligue nationale qui a résulté à une suspension de 41 matchs pour un joueur. Et aujourd'hui, la perte du choix premier ronde au repêchage. So for those who don't understand the belle langue, I was just suggesting that my first 30 days as owner of the Ottawa Senators has exceeded my expectation from all aspects. From the great fan support to this incredible city that has adopted me with open arms, to the passionate staff who care very much for our team, as well as a great exciting team who also care very much on the ice. And our team got off to a great start in this first 30 days. Unfortunately, the last 10 days have not been as much fun for me. Kind of brought me back to earth. And 3-game losing streaks, 3 injuries to 3 right D men, and 2 disturbing phone calls from the NHL, which has resulted in a young prospect being suspended for 41 games. And today, the announcement of the loss of a first-round draft pick. And this, the latter, is the reason why I'm here before you today. And with respect to today's NHL's serious ruling, the 73-page report that was shared with me last week stems from actions originated by our hockey club, unfortunately, that we were negligent in nature and our duty of care was ignored, which set off events that embarrassed the league and pissed off 2 other NHL clubs. As a member of this league, we have to be held accountable for our actions. And while this was not done before my watch, I must respect the league's decision. So today, I'm here to announce that Pierre Dorion has resigned and been relieved of his duties as general manager. I thank Pierre for his efforts for the Sens organization since starting as an amateur scout in 2007 and his contribution in the Ottawa-Gatineau community. Steve Staios will be entrusted to take over the duties as general manager effective immediately as interim general manager. And while the timing is tough for all these decisions coming so quickly, I am looking forward to less phone calls from the NHL offices, and we'll be continuing to focus on bringing forth the best-in-class product, both on and off the ice, for our team. I'll leave it with Steve, and this is...
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. This was certainly not part of my plan. I have been focused on building the foundation for the long-term success of the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club. I feel like we've made some good strides in those areas. Now that things have changed and circumstances have led to this, I will now look after the day-to-day operations as well as continue to look at the big picture. I'm excited. I have a great staff and support that's around me. I'm looking forward to empowering them to take on more of a role and responsibility. I do believe in this team. I believe in this coaching staff, and I'm very excited about the future.
Thank you. Michael, this is for you, and then I've got one for you, Steve. Just was the decision by the NHL, in your opinion, the last straw with Pierre?
That's probably well said, Bruce. And anyway, when you look at the significance of the penalty, I always talk about, accountability, giving the tools to be successful and accountability. And in this case, there's an element of, at the end of the day, we are at fault for what transpired. We can argue about, how harsh this penalty was. But ultimately, this could have been avoided, and the accountability is at our hockey club. And Pierre was ultimately responsible for the hockey operations of this club. But you say last straw, and I think there's some things. As I said to you on my opening press conference, my first order of the day is to learn, and I continue to learn. And I'm sure Steve is the same way. And for me, let's put it this way: I think a lot of the decisions that have been made, or some of the issues that we've had, could have been avoided.
Steve, I wanted to ask you, what is your first priority and when does your search for a new GM begin?
First priority is to instill stability and confidence in the group. You know, I think when changes like this happen, we've been hit with a few things, as Michael alluded to, that we've had to deal with. Just to give the group, the staff, the players, most importantly, the stability and the confidence for us moving forward. I think, as you've seen, we've done some things on the foundational pieces with the organization where we've had some additions to continue to support and build. We feel good about that. It's only been about 3 weeks that I've been here, but we've identified some of those areas and got there. Now on the day-to-day, again, stability and confidence in the group.
In search for a GM?
In search for a GM, that will happen. Like, I'll do what's best for the Ottawa Senators. That's the bottom line. So I think as this sort of starts to unfold, I think we're going to take a longer look at what our options might be and who might be available.
Sylvain Saint-Laurent du Journal Le Droit. Michael, Pierre Dorion a dit qu'il a rencontré chaque groupe qui voulait acheter l'équipe. Il avait toujours l'impression qu'il devait auditionner pour son propre travail. Si vous devez évaluer le travail qui a été fait par Pierre de 2016 à 2023, c'est quoi son héritage qu'il laisse aux sénateurs?
Ouais, c'est une question que pour vous dire la vérité, je suis pas je peux pas répondre à cette question à ce moment-là. Il faudrait que j'y pense. Et je vous reviens, c'est certain. Tout ce que je peux voir, c'est qu'est-ce qui s'est passé les trois dernières années. Je sais que Pierre il a commencé sa carrière à Ottawa comme dépisteur. Et ça, c'est une chose qui fait très bien. Quand je parle de le fait qu'on a perdu nos choix de repêchage, quand on regarde notre équipe, tu regardes Stützle, Sanderson, Tkachuk, tout ça, c'est des gars du premier round. Et il a comment on dit, he's got his imprint on that. But at the same time, on n'a pas eu de choix l'année dernière, on n'a pas eu de choix l'année précédente. Pourquoi? Et maintenant, on perd un autre choix. Pourquoi? On a besoin des choix de premier round.
Hey, Mike, Ian Mendes with The Athletic. Two questions for you. The first would be, I know you said that Pierre effectively resigned from his duty, so I just wondered if you could take us through the mechanics of how that happens and what that conversation was like between you and him and Steve when that decision was sort of made.
I'm just trying to think. Remember what I ate last night for dinner? I mean, I think at the end of the day, I did keep this between not many parties in this organization, but obviously there was 3 parties involved, and I was very proud in the fact that this organization kept Shane Pinto's announcement confidential. I was not too impressed with how this leaked out, but then again, there's two other teams that were involved and were advised, and I spoke with Gary on this subject matter last Tuesday. Gave me time to digest. Obviously, I went back and forth with the NHL on the ruling. I had to educate myself on the 73-page report that I read, understand the dynamics, and give people the benefit of the doubt. And ultimately, I came out with the decision. I sat down with Steve later in the week, suggested that I might be considering a move, and discussing this with Pierre, if he had a contingency plan, because this was never anticipated. And I mean, I made it very clear. I like that two-headed monster that managed it, and probably that could have been avoided, this whole issue, and collaboratively, we just, there's so much to do in the hockey operations. And last night sat down with Pierre and discussed the situation and how serious it was and how I couldn't come with a lesser penalty. And it was decided over dinner that we best to part ways. And I think Pierre's a very proud man. And I wasn't going to do this from afar. I wanted to do it in person and explain the situation. Obviously, I inherited it, but at the same time, I'm a human being, and he brings a lot of great qualities, and he cared. He cares for this organization. He's been with this organization for a long time. He's from the area. He's from Orleans, so that's how we've evolved.
And my follow-up question to that would be, you just kind of mentioned how you never anticipated this, you sort of inherited this situation. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of fans are wondering why this organization have to pay for something that happened 18 months ago, not even on your watch. What would you say to that?
I totally agree with you. That's a question you have to ask the NHL, why it took a whole year since the hearing. Granted, it was a 2-day hearing, 73-page reports. It's not something that's just a slam dunk. The commissioner had a lot of time to deliberate on it and think about it, but why I inherited this is beyond me. There's no reason for it to last that long. I knew about it through the due diligence process, and it was basically, from the seller's perspective, it was really a non-issue. So, I don't know if first round is a non-issue to you guys, but it is to me. Yeah.
Oscars from Sportsnet. So that was part of my question, is wondering how far back you at least were aware that something was going on. As you say, since you were going through the whole sale process, you were aware. So I just wondered, just in the terms of, you spoke to, maybe there's some other things that could have been avoided as you were learning and observing when you first took the role. What kind of has been your general sense of the hockey operations department in your month plus you've been here?
Yeah, I'm sure Steve can probably answer it better than I can. In the same way Cyril can speak to the business operations better than I can. But I do feel that there are people who care greatly. I think there are people who want to do more in this organization, and that's for Steve to assess and go from and take it from there. I forget the original part of your question.
No, that's essentially what I was getting at.
Yeah. I know what you suggested the fact that avoidable things, and I think I suggested at one point, I think it was on an interview, a radio interview, that with respect to Shane Pinto, we had. I suggested that we were in a bit of a pickle because we were at the cap. So maybe just to elaborate on your question about avoidable.
Hi, I'm Claire Hanna with TSN. I have 2 questions as well. You mentioned you had 2 disturbing phone calls from the NHL. With regards to the Shane Pinto situation, when were you aware that was being investigated? Because reports are that it was earlier this summer.
Yes, it was, and we were not made aware. That's another troubling thing for me, whether it's the agent is supposed to or not. There's a lot behind the story. I don't want to tell too much, but the reality is that, we, at the time that I know I was made aware, I figured that we need to understand what the investigation's all about before. So I put a stop to it, to any negotiations when we find out, because it made no sense going forward until such time, and especially that I felt that there was some, we weren't getting all the truth, all the facts. Let's just say that, not truth. Let's say all the facts. Case in point, this had started a lot earlier. To me, this is a serious thing, the gambling, and I remember Steve talking in his initial press conference, admiring this generation of hockey players. And I try and listen to it, and it's so true. They have so many more pressures than any other generation. and you look at a young man who's making millions of dollars, represents, millions of people in a community, but is 21 years old. And, let's say they're injured and they got time on their hands and they got millions of dollars, they got a cell phone, and Wayne Gretzky gets on an MGM and talks about, betting, and I'll just leave it at that. So for me, the important part is that this young man, he gets all the help, all the support from this organization, and he will be a better person with all of us supporting him, and he will make. He's already made a difference being the first person, and he regrets what he's done, and he's getting help for it. And at the end of the day, by default, he's actually helped all the other players that are going to be going through Belleville and Ottawa in this organization. That's what I can say about Shane Pinto.
And then a follow-up, and I think this might be more directed at Steve, but how will this impact the future of the rest of the organization, for example, head coach DJ Smith and the rest of the coaching staff?
Yeah. The players respect DJ. They play hard. They've never cheated us on effort. They look organized going into games. I think if you would ask DJ, and you ask me, are there areas of improvement? For sure. If you ask DJ, he would tell you the same thing. So I have confidence that this group is going to continue to move in the right direction. We're dealing with some injuries right now and some adversity, but I have confidence that this team will move in the right direction.
Matt Scooby from CTV Ottawa. Michael, I wanted to ask you, you touched on it maybe, but if you can expand, do you believe the league needs to be more transparent when it comes to these decisions? You're frustrated with how long it took for the league to make a decision, in particular about the first round draft pick, but even for the Shane Pinto situation, there's not much information that has come from the commissioner or otherwise. Do you believe that the league needs to answer a few more questions about how this is conducted and the decisions they hand out?
No, I think in this case it's personal. We're dealing with an individual, and there's privacy aspect to that. So you got to respect that. When it was explained to me, I understand a lot. As long as I think it's the timing of it all. I think that it's to me is so we can behave accordingly. You'll get transparency from this organization, but we're going to be very sensitive to obviously to as if it was your child, what you would want. So we try to put ourselves in other people's shoes when we try to do that. And I know we're fans, we're fanatics, and we want to know as much information as possible. And sometimes it's but I think the timing, to me, it was about the timing. I think when this happened, that this young man was under investigation, the organization should have been made aware. And with this whole, and I don't understand why it's taking so long, but maybe because the club was for sale and they didn't want to disrupt, so making sure the seller got the biggest price possible. I don't know. At the end of the day, I can't answer. You'd have to ask the NHL that question.
Right. Yeah. Michael, question for you, Tim Baines, Post Media. I want to understand this. You said the NHL, in a call with you, said they were embarrassed. Two teams were embarrassed. Am I getting that part correct?
Well, I think two teams wanted a pound of flesh, but the league by default got embarrassed through this process.
So I want to understand exactly what they're embarrassed about. Is the league accusing your team of lying, of being deceptive? What's the wording of this? What did you do wrong?
I just said it. I said we were negligent. Our duty of care was ignored. Then they go through an investigation. Was it done willfully or not? And then all of a sudden he said, she said. I wasn't part of those hearings, so I can't really say. But at the end of the day, we were downright negligent. At the end of the day, if somebody gets a trade, you include it with the current no trade clause. It's not that complicated.
So there is an admission of guilt then that we did something wrong, and obviously they feel it's very wrong because a first round pick is a pretty strong price to pay.
Yes, I think it's a very strong price to pay, but at the end of the day, this could have all been avoided, and it wouldn't have been an issue. But when you do these type of transactions, there's a level, the competitive level balance changes, right? If you try to circumvent the cap, or if you're cheating, it's all about competitiveness. I apologize. So for me, I have to respect it. Internally, we're going to look at this so this doesn't happen again. What kind of processes do we have in place? There's no finger pointing here.
It just seems odd, like with how many transactions and trades are in the NHL, and I don't remember an accusation like this before. So something happened, and we're trying to figure out what.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we know what happened. Davidov was traded to Vegas. No trade list was not provided. And then on that trade list was Anaheim was on that no trade list. Sometime later, they decided to trade it to Anaheim. That deal did not go through because the no trade list was not, basically it was advised that Anaheim was on the no trade list, and basically the deal was called off because of that, because of Ottawa's doings. So,
Wayne Scanlon, Sportsnet. A question for either of you, really. So you have to forfeit a draft choice. Any initial thoughts? You have some time to think about it, I'm sure, but some initial thoughts on which draft choice or what year you might pick?
Yeah, I think Wayne, we'd go through a process to identify our best case scenario on how less debilitating it is, on what year it would be. So we haven't really gotten to that, but there will be a process that we will put in place and take a long, hard look at it.
Kim Valère, Radio-Canada. Vous aviez touché un peu en anglais, mais je voulais vous entendre un peu sur qu'est-ce qui a été la goutte qui a fait déborder le vase. Est-ce que c'est un autre appel ou c'est la sanction, le niveau de sévérité que vous semblez vraiment, ça vient de vous toucher, que c'est un choix de premier tour en particulier? Donc, quel aspect a été particulièrement le plus difficile à avaler?
C'est probablement une combinaison, mais la sévérité de cette décision par la Ligue nationale a vraiment été la dernière straw qui a fait que il y avait une décision à prendre.
Si je peux me permettre, vous parlez de accountability pour la prochaine chose. Là, vous avez un directeur général intérimaire pour le prochain qui va prendre cette place-là. Quel genre de qualité vous allez rechercher?
Pour moi, ça sera la responsabilité à Steve de prendre. Mais les caractéristiques, c'est être comptable. La comptabilité, c'est très important. Et à la fin de la journée, c'est qu'est-ce qui est complémentaire pour notre département de hockey. Parce que c'est pas une personne qui peut tout faire, qui est évident avec cette décision.